What happens when a billionaire discovers a homeless woman holding a baby she claims is his, and then uncovers a truth that shakes the very foundation of his identity? This is not just a story about wealth, love, and betrayal. It's about the twist that no one saw coming. Stay with us till the end. The final revelation will leave you speechless. Before we begin this powerful story, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a single moment of our life-changing content. If you find value in what we share, please like the video, share the channel, and help us reach more hearts around the world. This is more than just storytelling. Every tale carries a meaningful lesson designed to inspire, uplift, and transform. A homeless woman gave birth to a billionaire's child. And what he did next shocked everyone. It was raining that morning. Not the soft kind that brings peace to the soul, but the cold, punishing kind that soaks into your bones and makes even a billionaire feel powerless. I sat in the back seat of my Bentley. Engine running. City noise muffled by tinted glass. But my thoughts, loud, unforgiving, echoed louder than the streets. My name is Daniel Carter, founder of 3 tech companies, owner of towers with my name on them, a man who once had everything. And yet, that morning, I had no peace. Because the night before, I had lost $100 million deal. And something far more precious. My fiancée, Vanessa, had walked away. She said I had become cold, heartless, disconnected. She was right. Wealth had numbed me. I had forgotten where I came from. I had buried the boy who once sold newspapers barefoot outside subway stations. But life has a cruel way of reminding you, of humbling you, of dragging you back to the dirt. That morning, it did. The traffic light turned red. And there, on the corner of 56th and Alder, I saw her. A woman, barefoot, drenched, clutching a newborn to her chest. She stood beneath a broken street lamp, hair stuck to her face, eyes searching the crowd, not for help, but for dignity. No one looked her in the eye. People passed by as if she were invisible. But I saw her. She looked 19, maybe younger. A child holding a child. Something in me stirred. A memory. A whisper. The face of my mother, before she died in a shelter. I opened the car door. My driver tried to stop me, but I stepped into the storm. My shoes filled with water. My coat soaked in seconds. I walked to her, slowly, carefully, as if approaching a fragile bird. "Do you need help?" I asked. She did not answer. She tightened the blanket around the baby and looked away. "I can get you somewhere warm," I said. Still no reply. But her eyes welled up. Not with gratitude, with fear. I saw her lips tremble. She shook her head. "I do not trust rich men," she said. Her voice was hoarse, rough, worn from screaming into a world that never listened. "I am not like them," I whispered. She looked up, finally, and something happened. A shift, a recognition, not of me but of pain, shared pain. I reached into my coat pocket, took out my business card, held it toward her. She hesitated, then took it, not for the name, not for the title, but for the warmth of the gesture. "I am Daniel," I said. She said nothing, but as I turned to leave, she called out, "My name is Alina." The rain softened, almost as if the city paused. 2 days later, she stood outside my office, wearing the same clothes, holding the same baby. But this time, she was not invisible. My staff tried to shoo her away, until I stepped in and brought her to the top floor. She sat on the edge of the chair like she did not belong, like the marble floors and gold panels would reject her. I offered her food. She refused. I asked about the baby.
Her name is Hope, she said. Then silence. Tight. Wounded.
I asked who the father was.
She looked at me, and my world stopped. You are.
Those words punched the air out of my lungs.
My chest tightened.
My mind raced.
No, I said.
That is not possible. Her eyes did not waver. We met 1 year ago. You were different then.
I searched her face.
Searched my memory.
The charity event. The after party. The rooftop.
The night I tried to forget. She had been there.
A waitress. A quiet one.
She had helped me when I was drunk and angry.
She had listened. She had stayed. And I
had made a mistake. I remembered.
Not everything, but enough.
Enough to know she was not lying. I looked at the child in her arms. Her eyes familiar.
Like mine.
Like my mother's. My legs gave way.
I sat. Silent. Heavy.
You could have sold this story to the media, I said.
She nodded. But I did not. Why?
Because I wanted you to be a father, not a headline.
I had no words. Only shame. And something else. A pull. A spark.
I asked her to stay. In the guest house on my estate. She refused. I am not here for charity, she said. Then what do you want? She looked me in the eye.
I want you to know her. That is all. She turned to leave. But I stopped her. Wait. She paused. I want to help.
Not just with money. With everything.
She looked at me again. And this time I saw it.
The tiredness.
The strength.
The courage it took to walk into a billionaire's office with nothing but truth.
And a baby. My baby.
Alina stayed that night. I made soup.
It burned.
She laughed for the first time. It sounded like spring.
Hope cried.
I held her for the first time. And something broke inside me.
The wall. The ice. The billionaire.
That night, I was just a man.
A father.
A fool who had almost lost everything real. And as I watched Alina rock Hope to sleep on my leather couch, I realized something else. This was not charity.
This was grace.
And I did not deserve it. But I would fight for it. Every single day.
Because sometimes,
the richest man in the city is the one who holds a child in his arms.
And knows her name.
The days that followed felt unlike anything I had lived in years.
Meetings still happened.
Stock prices still fluctuated. But my mind, my heart, remained with the tiny pair of eyes that blinked up at me from Alina's arms.
Hope. That was her name.
She was not just a child.
She was a reset button. A mirror. A second chance.
Alina stayed in the guest house.
Not out of comfort.
But because she wanted time.
Time to trust. Time to breathe.
Time to see if I was the man she once saw behind my drunken mask. Each morning, I visited. Sometimes with breakfast. Sometimes just to listen. And every evening, I left humbled. Because while I had built skyscrapers, she had built a world around her child from nothing but courage and torn blankets. One night, I found her crying.
Hope had a fever. Her tiny body burning.
Alina held her, rocking gently. Her forehead pressed to Hope's, whispering lullabies with a voice that trembled. I called my private physician. He came immediately. She did not want help. But I insisted. And that night, as the doctor treated Hope in the living room, I made tea in the kitchen with shaking hands. I was terrified. Not of losing a deal. Or a merger. But of losing something real. Something pure. Something I never even knew I needed. When Hope's fever finally broke, Alina collapsed on the couch. Tired.
Relieved. Silent.
I covered her with a blanket.
She looked up. "You stayed," she whispered. "I will always stay," I said. She smiled. Not wide. Just enough.
And in that quiet moment, I saw her. Not the girl on the street. Not the girl from my forgotten night. But the woman who had faced life head-on, and never broken. The next morning, I did something I had not done in 10 years. I cancelled a board meeting. Instead, I spent the entire day with them.
We went to the park. Alina was quiet.
Hope slept in the stroller. And I watched them move through the world like they had always belonged to it. But I knew the truth. They had fought for every breath, every inch of dignity, every fragile smile. I told Alina I wanted to do more.
To be part of Hope's life. To support her. To support them both. She listened.
Then said something that cut deeper than any corporate betrayal. "You want to be a father when it is convenient."
I felt the sting. But I nodded.
"I deserve that. But I will earn it."
She watched me, searching. Not for money. Not for power. But for truth. I did not flinch.
That night, I gave her keys to the main house.
She hesitated. Then took them.
With trembling fingers. "Only until Hope recovers," she said. I did not argue. Because trust is not given.
It is built. Brick by brick. Like a home. Like a heart.
Days turned into weeks. And something grew between us. Not just familiarity.
But respect. Warmth.
Even laughter. We talked at night after Hope fell asleep.
About life. Loss.
The way the world looked different when you had nothing. And how wealth can sometimes blind you to what truly matters. One evening, she showed me a sketchbook. Full of pencil drawings.
Hope's tiny hands.
The outline of my face.
The house. The trees.
She had captured everything in strokes of lead and emotion. I stared at the pages in awe. "You are an artist," I said.
She shrugged.
"Just a girl with a pencil."
"No," I replied.
"You see the soul in things." That night, I could not sleep. I sat at my desk, staring at my empire. And for the first time, I wondered what legacy truly meant.
Buildings crumble. Fortunes shift. But love?
Love leaves a mark no wind can erase. And yet, just when I began to believe in second chances, my past knocked on the door.
It was Vanessa.
My ex-fiancée. She stormed into the foyer like a gust of cold wind.
Eyes sharp. Lip curled. She saw Alina. Saw Hope. And then she laughed.
"She is the reason, isn't she?" she hissed. "You threw away everything for a street girl and a bastard child?"
My fists clenched. But Alina stepped back, holding Hope close. Silent. Wounded. I walked between them.
"That child is mine," I said. "And so is my future." Vanessa's face twisted. "You will regret this."
I shook my head. "No, Vanessa.
I regret not seeing what mattered sooner."
She left. But her words stayed.
The next day, tabloids ran with the story. Billionaire abandons heiress for homeless mother. Secret love child rocks tech empire.
My board panicked. Investors called.
Shares dipped. And for the first time, I felt afraid. Not for myself, but for Alina. And Hope. Their world was now exposed. Vulnerable. Targeted. I walked into her room that night. She was packing. Tears in her eyes. "You do not need to go," I said. "This is my storm, Daniel," she whispered. "And I will not let hope drown in it." I fell to my knees. Took her hand. "Then let me build you a roof strong enough to weather it." She looked at me. Eyes filled with love. And fear. "I do not know how to trust that." "Then let me show you," I said. "One promise at a time." I built my fortune on innovation. Strategy. Relentless control. But that night, kneeling before Alina, I realized. Love does not follow business plans. It asks for surrender. It demands humility. And sometimes it waits, until your walls fall apart. She stood still. bag half-zipped. Hope asleep in the crib beside her. I watched the rise and fall of her chest. She was deciding whether to stay or vanish. Whether to trust the man who once forgot her, or walk away, carrying my soul in her arms. Then gently she sat down.
Slowly, carefully. "I will stay," she whispered.
But not for promises.
I nodded. "For presents." I took her hand. Warm, calloused, honest.
That night, I did not sleep. I held hope until morning. I studied the curve of her tiny fingers,
the way her breath calmed when I hummed.
And I realized something brutal and beautiful. I was not saving them. They were saving me.
The next week was war.
The board demanded answers. My CFO suggested a public apology. Some wanted Alina silenced. A few even offered her hush money. I fired 2 executives that day.
And told the rest.
If they could not see the strength of a woman raising a child alone, they were not fit to shape the future. I stepped down from 3 boards. Sold 2 non-essential subsidiaries. Shifted my time, my resources, my heart, toward something greater than profit.
Home. Peace. Redemption.
I bought Alina an art studio downtown.
A modest space. Brick walls. Tall windows. She was speechless.
"It is yours," I said. She placed Hope on the floor. Walked the room in silence. Then turned to me. I have never had a key to anything before.
Now she did. A month passed.
Her sketches became paintings. Then exhibits.
Then headlines.
From sidewalk to spotlight, the artist who painted her way out of homelessness.
But she never bragged. Never chased fame.
She still made soup from scratch. Still sang Hope to sleep with lullabies older than memory. And every night, she left one canvas unfinished. She said it would be her truth when the time was right. Then one day, it all changed. I had just walked in from a meeting. Hope ran to me. She was learning to walk.
Still wobbly. Still fearless.
I picked her up, heart bursting. Alina was in the kitchen, apron dusted with flour. Then my phone rang. It was my lawyer.
Urgent. Tense.
"Daniel, you need to come downtown."
"Why?"
"There is a lawsuit."
I froze.
"A woman is claiming paternity fraud. Says Alina trapped you for your money." I could barely breathe.
"Who?" He hesitated.
"Vanessa." The air left the room. Alina looked at me. She heard everything. Her hands trembled. I reached for her. But she stepped back. "I knew this would happen," she said. Her voice cracked. "They will never let us live in peace."
"I will fight it," I said.
"I will protect you."
She shook her head. Tears welled.
"You cannot protect what the world refuses to believe in."
I felt helpless.
Angry.
Broken.
Hope cried in my arms. The sound pierced me. The next morning, the headline broke. Billionaire's new lover accused of faking pregnancy to gain fortune. Alina's studio was vandalized.
Hateful words.
Smeared across glass and paint.
I rushed there.
She was on the floor, holding a ruined canvas. Her masterpiece. The one she had never finished. I dropped beside her. She looked up. Eyes hollow. "This is why people stay silent." I touched her shoulder. "Not anymore." I stood. Called my assistant. My press team. Legal. Full statement. Now. The next day, I went live. Not with denial. Not with a carefully polished press release. But with truth. I told the world about the night I met her. The child I ignored. The woman I forgot. And the man I became because of her. I held up a photo of Hope. "This is my daughter," I said. "And the greatest gift of my life." The backlash was loud. But support louder. People remembered their own Alinas. Their own forgotten mothers. Their own strength. Donations poured into shelters. Art collectors doubled their bids. And Alina? She painted again. But this time with fire. With pride. with every ounce of pain and power the world gave her. That night, she showed me her finished piece. The canvas once ruined, now reborn. It showed a man kneeling, a woman standing, and between them, a child made of light. I call it redemption, she said. I looked at her, at the woman who gave me a second chance at life. And I knew this was only the beginning. But just as we began to breathe again, an envelope arrived. No return address. Just my name. Inside was a birth certificate. No signature. No date. But scrawled across the bottom, in red ink, "Hope is not yours." Alina gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth. And I felt the ground shift beneath me. I stared at the envelope, at the single sentence that shredded the silence. "Hope is not yours." My breath turned shallow. Alina looked pale, stunned, hurt, confused. "No," she whispered. Her voice was barely audible. "That is not possible." I held the paper tighter. My hands trembled. My chest burned. I turned it over. Blank. No seal. No official mark. Just handwriting. Rushed. Aggressive. Cruel. "Who sent this?" I asked. She shook her head slowly. Tears welled in her eyes. "I do not know." Her legs gave way, and she sat on the floor. Hope, as if sensing the storm, crawled toward her mother and buried herself in Alina's lap. I knelt beside them. My mind was spinning. Had I been wrong? Had my heart deceived me? Or was someone trying to rip us apart? Again? Alina reached for my hand. "I know what this looks like," she said. "But I swear to you, Daniel." She choked. "I never lied to you." And I believed her. Not because of words, but because of everything we had shared. Every wound. Every moment of tenderness. Every time she could have walked away, but did not. I held her hand tighter. "We will get a DNA test," I said. "Not because I doubt you, but because I will not let anyone else write our story." She nodded slowly, but I saw it in her eyes. The fear. The shame. The fragile line between trust and heartbreak. The test was scheduled for the next morning. I drove her myself. No bodyguards. No assistants. Just us. She held Hope close, her arms wrapped protectively. The nurse was gentle, efficient. The samples taken. 3 swabs. 1 silent prayer. The results would take 72 hours. 3 days. But it felt like a lifetime. Each day, I saw less color in Alina's cheeks. Less light in her eyes. I tried to distract her. Tried to fill the house with warmth. Cooked breakfast. Failed miserably. Tried again. She smiled weakly. But I knew. This letter, whoever sent it, had done more than cast doubt. It had unearthed her deepest wound. The fear of never being believed. The fear of being thrown away. Again. Day 2 passed. Still no word. I watched the clock more than the stock market. I ignored calls. Ignored press. Nothing else mattered. On the 3rd evening, the courier arrived. Small envelope. Neutral logo. I opened it with shaking hands. Alina stood at the doorway. Frozen. Silent. I read it once. Then again. My eyes blurred. I looked at her. She stepped forward. Desperate. "Tell me." I swallowed hard. Then whispered. "She is mine." Alina collapsed into my arms. Sobbing. Trembling. But it was not grief. It was relief. A dam breaking. Hope stirred in her crib. The sky outside cracked open with thunder. Rain poured against the glass. But inside, we held each other like survivors. She pulled back. "I was so afraid," she whispered. "I thought you would stop loving her." I touched her face. I did not fall in love with her DNA. I fell in love with her smile. And with the mother who never gave up on her. She cried again. But this time, they were tears of release. Of finally knowing that no lie, no letter, no rumor could take this away from us. We were family. But I still had questions. Who sent the letter? Why now? And how did they get a forged birth certificate? I hired my own investigator. Not a corporate one. A quiet one. The kind who could find shadows in broad daylight. 3 days later, he returned. With photos. One of them made my stomach drop. It was Vanessa.
My ex.
Holding the very same envelope. Laughing with a man I barely recognized. But the name on the report made my skin crawl.
Travis Reed. A former employee.
A disgraced ex-director I had fired 2 years ago for embezzlement.
He had vanished. Until now.
He and Vanessa were working together.
Their goal? Discredit Alina.
Disrupt my public image.
Crush me with doubt.
Because revenge is not always loud. Sometimes, it slithers in quietly. In ink and whispers. I showed Alina the file.
She was quiet. Then she nodded. We fight fire with truth, she said.
I held her gaze.
And knew.
This woman was no longer just part of my life.
She was its compass.
My anchor.
My strength.
And the fire in her. It was just getting started.
Alina stood tall.
No longer the trembling woman who clutched a baby under a street lamp. She held the file in her hands.
Read every word. Every lie.
Every plan to destroy what we were building. Then she looked at me with fire in her eyes.
They wanted a scandal, she said.
We will give them truth.
I nodded.
And for the first time, I realized. I was not leading anymore.
I was following her. We called a press conference.
Not in some luxury ballroom. Not at my corporate tower. But inside Alina's art studio. Paintings lined the brick walls. Each one born of her struggle.
Her survival. Her light.
We stood before a dozen cameras. Dozens more watched online.
Alina stepped forward.
She held hope in her arms. And silence fell over the room. She did not read a statement. She spoke from the heart.
I was homeless. Yes.
I gave birth alone.
Yes.
But I did not lie. I did not trap him. I did not ask for his money. I asked for his presence.
The room held its breath.
He gave me that, she continued. And in return, I gave him back something he had lost.
His humanity. His purpose. His soul.
Then she turned toward me. You are not perfect, Daniel.
But you chose us.
Not when it was easy, but when it could have cost you everything. I stepped beside her. My name is Daniel Carter, I said into the microphone. I have failed before. I have chased the wrong things. But when I found my daughter, and the woman who raised her with nothing but courage and love, I found everything. The reporters said nothing at first.
Then one stood up.
What about the forged letter? He asked. I handed him a copy of the investigation file. The ones who tried to ruin us will answer for it, I said. And if this costs me my empire.
I looked at Alina. At Hope.
It is still the best deal I have ever made.
Applause rose. Soft at first. Then strong.
That night, our story flooded every headline.
Not with shame, but with power.
The homeless mother who humbled a billionaire. Hope is her name, but truth was her weapon.
Offers poured in.
TV interviews.
Book deals.
Gallery exhibitions. Alina turned down most of them. But she agreed to one thing.
A partnership.
She wanted to open a shelter.
For young mothers. Abused women. Runaways.
She would call it the Haven. And she wanted me to help build it. Not just with money.
With time. With presence.
We broke ground within a month. The first wing was named after her late mother. The nursery, after Hope. But just as we started to breathe again,
another shadow returned. Travis Reed. This time, he was not hiding.
He sued us both for defamation. Claimed his career had been destroyed. He wanted damages.
A public apology. And worse.
He filed for partial custody.
Of Hope.
Claiming to be the real father. The news spread like wildfire. Alina collapsed when she heard. She clutched her chest, gasping for air. I rushed her to the hospital. Stress-induced arrhythmia, the doctor said.
Too much pressure. Too much fear.
I sat beside her hospital bed.
Held her hand.
Watched the monitors blink.
And I promised.
No one will take her from us.
No one.
We ordered a second DNA test. Court-mandated this time. More invasive.
More public. More cruel.
Travis gave interviews.
Smirked for cameras. Called me a fraud.
Called Alina names I will never repeat.
But when the results came in,
I was the one who delivered them.
In court.
Alina sat beside me.
Hope in her lap. Across from us, Travis looked smug.
Until the judge read the document. Daniel Carter, biological father. 99.9% certainty.
The courtroom fell silent. Travis stood, shouted,
Accused us of rigging the results. The judge banged the gavel. Mr. Reed, if you speak again without permission, you will be removed. He was dragged out moments later, yelling,
unhinged, powerless.
When it was over, Alina leaned her head against my shoulder.
Hope slept in her arms. And I realized,
peace is not found in silence. It is found in truth, hard won,
fought for, protected, loved.
But even as the gavel dropped,
I felt something shift. My phone buzzed. A new message. No name, no number, just one line.
You still do not know everything. I stared at the message, my hands suddenly cold. The courtroom still buzzed with whispers and closure. But in my gut, I felt the ground shifting again. You still do not know everything. I showed the message to Alina.
Her face paled. Her lips moved, but no words came. I dialed the number. Disconnected. No trace. No clue. No explanation.
That night, after putting Hope to sleep, we sat in silence by the fire. The warmth of the flames could not touch the chill in the room. Alina finally broke the silence. I have told you everything I know, she said softly.
I nodded.
I believe you. But I could not shake the feeling that a storm was building just beyond the horizon. I forwarded the message to my investigator. Asked him to trace the number, the server, the origin. He promised to get back to me by morning. But morning came with more than answers.
It came with a knock. A quiet one. At the back door. I opened it. No one was there.
Just a small brown envelope on the ground.
Inside, a photograph. Faded. Old.
Blurry around the edges.
It showed a woman. Pregnant.
Standing in front of a small church.
And beside her was me.
Or someone who looked exactly like me.
I stared. Felt my heart stutter. The face was mine.
But I had never met this woman in my life. On the back of the photo, scribbled in shaking ink, this was never about Alina. I turned the photo over again. Studied every detail.
My jaw tightened.
I walked back inside. Alina saw my expression and stood up. What is it? I handed her the photo.
Her eyes widened.
She clutched the picture like it might vanish.
Who is she? I asked.
She shook her head slowly.
I do not know.
But something in her voice wavered.
Faint. Uncertain. Alina, please, I said, gently.
If you remember something, anything, I need to know.
She sank into the chair. Pressed the photo to her chest. I saw her once, she whispered. In the shelter.
Years ago. She was only there for a few nights. What was her name?
I do not know.
But she talked in riddles. Said she was carrying a miracle. That the father would never know. That she would protect the child no matter what.
My breath caught. She said that. Alina nodded.
She never gave a name. But she said something else too.
What? She said, men like him, they leave.
But one day he will look into a child's eyes and see the truth. I felt a shiver crawl up my spine. My investigator called that afternoon.
His voice was tight. Shaken.
Daniel, we traced the IP. The message came from inside your company. My chest went hollow.
Which department? Legal. Who? He hesitated.
Then said a name I never expected.
Julian Kane. My oldest friend. My general counsel.
The man who helped me draft my first investor agreement at age 22.
I sat down. Dizzy. Julian?
Why? I called him immediately. Straight to voicemail.
I tried again. Nothing. I went to his office. Gone. Cleared out.
Laptop missing.
Phone off. My head spun.
I returned home, where Alina was rocking Hope, humming softly.
I sat across from her.
told her everything. She looked at me for a long moment,
then whispered,
"I think someone is trying to tell you about your past."
And then it hit me. What if
this was not about my daughter? What if it was about me?
The photograph,
the message,
the threat, not to hope,
but to my own identity. I pulled out every file I had. Birth records,
old photos, family documents.
I called the retirement home where my aunt had once lived, the woman who raised me after my mother's death. I asked for her personal box of letters. I paid whatever it cost. It arrived the next day. Inside, beneath old birthday cards and faded photographs, I found a sealed envelope with my name on it, written in my mother's handwriting. Hands shaking, I opened it. Inside was a letter, and one single line leapt from the page and sliced through everything I thought I knew. "Your father was not who you believe he was."
I froze. Read it again. Then again.
The rest of the letter was vague,
emotional, wounded. It spoke of mistakes, of shame,
of a love that was forbidden, and a truth that could never be spoken aloud.
Until now.
Alina reached over and took my hand. "I told you once," she said gently, "that you were not saving us. We were saving you." My eyes met hers.
But my mind
was unraveling. Because suddenly, everything made sense.
The silence, the shadows,
the lies that shaped my childhood. I had spent my life building towers of glass and steel.
But now
I would have to walk through fire,
to find who I truly was,
and to protect the family I had almost lost. Because some ghosts do not stay buried,
and some truths,
they break you before they set you free. I stood alone in the hallway of my childhood home.
The air was still.
The kind of stillness that only follows truth. The kind that changes a man from the inside out. I had learned more in the past few months than in all the years I spent building empires. That money cannot buy clarity. That success means nothing when you do not know who you truly are. And that sometimes, family is not who you come from, but who stands beside you when everything else falls apart. Alina walked in behind me,
hope on her hip.
She looked around the old creaking house.
Faded wallpaper, dusty picture frames. And then she smiled.
Not because the place was beautiful,
but because she knew.
This was where the old chapter ended, and a new one was ready to begin. We had searched for answers. We had faced betrayal, judgment, lies. But through it all, we had held onto something rare.
Each other.
And a child whose name reminded us daily that even in darkness, there is light.
Hope reached for me, called me duh for the first time. My knees buckled, not from weakness,
but from the overwhelming grace of it. We sat on the porch that evening, the sky painted in strokes of gold and blue. Alina rested her head on my shoulder. Hope giggled in her lap. And for once, the world was quiet, not because the noise stopped, but because peace had finally arrived within us.
Not in mansions, not in headlines, not in bank accounts, but in presence, in love.
In the small, brave moments that define a life well lived. Moral of the story. Sometimes, life tears everything apart. Your plans, your pride, your identity. Not to punish you, but to show you what truly matters. It is not about how much you have. It is about how much you give. It is not about where you start. It is about how you rise. And it is not about being perfect, but about being present.
For someone. For truth. For love.
Because in the end, the most powerful legacy a person can leave is not written in money or marble. It is written in the hearts they choose to hold and never let go. Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it touched your heart, like, comment, and share this video. And remember, you are never alone.